everyone. This is going to be a part of the FinTech Ki Baat Dil Se podcast under the section called Gyan from the Pehlwan, where we essentially take interesting topics and take a lot of gyan from all the industry Pehlwans that are there. Today with us, like Abhishant sir mentioned, we have himself, who is the founder of the FinTech Meetup and also runs an angel fund called Yatra Angel Network. We have Tushar Shankar, who is co-founder of FiCommerce. We have Vikram Pandya, who is fintech head, fintech director at SP Chen, as well as the research head at Varanium Capital. And we have Prasanna Lohar, who is the digital head at DCB Bank. So that's about the speakers. Of course, we have Saurabh and Kunal from NPCI joining us for this session as well. Shiraz, over to you if you could take the first question.
Thank you so much, Sagarika. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you everyone for staying for the panel discussion. As essentially the opening question, I would like to put forward a thought process on what do we look at from when you look at an e-rupee as a product, what do you look at as a future perspective, and what use cases do you think post the vaccination use cases done? What are the main use cases that we think would be the driving factors for transactions on the e-rupee platform? So this question is open to the panel. I would like to first start with Saurabh sir. Sir, any insights from your end on what do you think on what use cases could essentially be the driver of e-rupee in the future?
And if I can just extend that question, Saurabh, that the UPI possibly is the one single product which created most unicorns in India than anything else. So one product created so many unicorns in one or the other way. It contributed a lot in terms of building the ecosystem. In that same sense, when you look at e-rupee, obviously e-rupee use cases are going to expand and build further. When and how those use cases will evolve, and are we looking at 1 billion transactions soon from a e-rupee point of view?
I will not go there. So thanks Abhishant, and thanks everyone again. But nothing can start without your shairi. So this session is not going to start if you will not, give the opening remarks by some beautiful poetic words. So that is the only condition. While in the meanwhile, Prasanna has also joined. So I think all of us will echo the same thing. So 2 lines and then we'll start, because that give us some kind of guidance in which direction we need to say what.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very, very true.
So अभी वो मतलब जो है याद आना अपने आप में बड़ा मुश्किल है, but possibly we can start with a few pieces which I've kind of used a number of times from Madhushala, which is मदिरालय जाने को घर से चलता है पीने वाला, किस पथ जाऊं असमंजस में है वो बोला बाला, अलग अलग पथ बतलाते सब पर मैं यह बतलाता हूँ, राह पकड़ तू एक चला चल पा जाएगा मधुशाला। तो आप सोचिए, आपकी इस देश के जितने भी शराबी हैं, यदि वो सभी ई-रूपी वाउचर लेकर के निकल पड़े तो इस देश की शराब की दुकानों की क्या स्थिति हो जाएगी। सो ऑन अ लाइटर साइड साहब, मेरे ख्याल से इस देश का हर शराबी जो है वो इंतजार कर रहा है कि उसको बेनिफिट के रूप में ई-रूपी वाउचर इशू करे जाए और वो ई-रूपी वाउचर्स को लेकर के जाए। आई एम श्योर बिलियन ट्रांजैक्शंस जो है उससे क्रिएट हो जाएंगे। सॉरी फॉर क्रिएटिंग अ लाइटर कन्वर्सेशन टू स्टार्ट थिंग्स, बट हाँ, मतलब बिलियन ट्रांजैक्शन तो हो जाएंगे बॉस।
So one thing which I would like to say, Abhishant, I don't know about numbers, because that is an outcome. These simple thing which we keep on working on. What problem we are solving, right? So we are a very, very firm believer of that we are not talking about any product. We are talking about the platform. So this is the platform. So while we have created the UPI, the problem which we were solving is the convenience, ease, and security, right? That's what the 2-3 buzzwords. And right now the comfort is there that you are not using cash since last 2-3 years. So that's the comfort which is there. The same thing when I can see and when I can think about that the use cases of this could be immense. Everything could be a voucher, right? Because everything, right now what you're doing from your in day-to-day life, just imagine from petrol, to fuel, to your food, to your kids, your anything is a currency which is going out somewhere, right? So those small prepaid vouchers can be created, and it is just one time uses. So right now it is one time uses, and right now it is B2B2C. But tomorrow when the P2P is there, I think there is no dearth of use cases. It is solely depends on, and then while you are talking about 1 billion, I'll say if we'll put the things at in the right place, I don't think so that transaction and the unicorns what we're talking about, every unicorn start with the problem statement, and there are immense problem statement as we speak. So it's your cost, your convenience, and these are the 2-3 things which will keep on in the radar. So just imagine what is happening right now. So I don't think so that there is even a dearth of use cases. A lot of use cases from government to personal.
Definitely. Thank you for your insights. I think moving on to Vikram. Vikram, what is your view on the use cases, and which use cases do you see as a key driver for this specific platform?
Sure, happy to share my thoughts on this. So as we discussed earlier, right? So NPCI provides the pipeline. First generation of startups will work with issuer and create the experience layer, where let's assume that you will have a scenario. Today what happens that 1,000 rupee e-voucher or e-rupee that you get, if you don't use that 1,000 completely, let's say you use only for 200, 800 goes back. You may have first generation of startups creating such a solution that automatically that remaining 800 rupee will come back to you as again a new e-voucher. That is the experience layer we are talking about to manage certain things, to make it much more easier for you to approach this problem, right? Let's say I'm creating 1,000 rupee. As a corporate, I want you to have 1,000 rupee. So I'm saying, yes, I want to allow you to completely utilize. There is an option that I'm allowing. So issuer will work with, let's say, startup, or issuer can create this solution themselves, where this 1,000 rupee voucher automatically will get issued if part payment is happening. That is the first generation of startups which is working on this management and experience layer. Then you will have second generation of startup which will work with application layer. So as we have seen a couple of examples here today, besides that, when you look at it, so we have this entire ISO 18245 with merchant category code and everything. Let's say you decide on that this merchant category, I want to issue this voucher. But on the application layer, now you may want to also combine multiple different merchant category code and allow people to use in that particular separate scenario. Let's assume I want someone to have a use case where this e-voucher can be used specifically for food and beverages. Then I may need to select 20 different merchant code or merchant category codes. That is where again that layer will work with the application layer. Experience plus application will be the generation 2. And generation 3 will be the completely, let's say, this embedded finance people which will work with 1 and 2 together and provide this, and it will be embedded everywhere. Right? So for example, as Dilip was saying, on the acceptance side, let's say you are looking at the QR code. Now, whether QR code is scanned by merchant application or by your webcam on third-party website, doesn't matter. So what you can do, you can just simply either upload that or you can show it on your webcam, and the website will automatically process that. So that is again another layer of that experience and application that you are combining, and that becomes embedded layer, which is part of, let's say, payment gateway or part of some of these other layers like Fi-commerce. So that becomes another layer on top of it, so that everything is now having its own place and it will grow that way. That is my thought.
Got it. I think that is a really interesting view on how generation-wise the startup system will essentially utilize and drive the use cases. Thank you for the insights, Vikram. Moving on to Tushar sir. Tushar, over to you. What are your views on this specific use cases that will drive the transactions in the e-rupee ecosystem?
So I was
Tushar?
Yes. Abhishek, you are mute.
Sorry, Tushar, what I wanted to say is that one of the use case which got discussed, I think, I'm not sure if you joined by that time, was around cash on delivery, COD part of it.
Absolutely.
And COD part is a very, very interesting part on the e-rupee value chain. So मतलब जो वाहिद अली वाहिद ने कहा था कि भाई तू भी है राणा का वंशज, फेंक जहां तक भाला जाए, तो आप भाला फेंकने को तैयार हो COD साइड पर? और हाउ?
Absolutely. So as a startup who's working on the COD side, we see this as a very useful instrument to be able to push the limits of digitization on the COD, which today is anywhere between 10% to 25% kind of a digitization, to even higher percentage of the digitization. But on the whole, what I also see, I mean, I was reading some blogs of people on e-rupee and all, and someone very beautifully said that it's a very good example of a central bank digital currency being beautifully integrated into the existing payment rails of the country. So essentially, what this does is that it opens up a plethora of use cases that can typically happen, whether it is on the government side or whether it is on the business side. Obviously, from the government side, see, the challenge that the government side today in the current form is the cost associated with actually distributing a DBT directly onto somebody, the farmer subsidy. So what this essentially does is that it is a very targeted, specific and a purposeful payment which is targeted to a specific user. And that's what the real power of this is, which it eliminates leakage, it eliminates duplication, it eliminates ambiguity. And especially in areas like you have DBT, you have agriculture, you have education subsidies, which are targeted at specific people on the government side. Whereas on the private sector side, I mean, our whole salary can get kind of restructured with the food vouchers coming in, or the education expenses coming in, or my travel expenses coming in. This is going to be a really powerful tool, so powerful that it can actually restructure salaries of corporate. It would be of great help for corporates like Philip was discussing, also for the CSR activities that corporates, like in the previous discussion we were having, that TCS likes the TCS of kind they're going to do in the industry. So on a whole, and what I would also like to see is this getting extended not from a in-person payment to a virtual payment, where it get extended to mobile apps, it gets extended to e-commerce websites, and obviously the cash on delivery piece where consumer can pay. So it right now, the form that is very popular in cash on delivery is the Aadhaar Pay for the rural sector and UPI for mass sectors. And I see this as a very powerful tool to be able to make digital payments at delivery at the doorstep of the consumer. And we definitely are very excited to incorporate this as part of our offering to our merchants.
Got it. So what essentially you feel is that COD as well as from that perspective, e-commerce perspective, as well as CSR from a B2B perspective could be the major driving use cases once the vaccination use cases are essentially
stabilized and rolled out. Yes.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you for the insight, Tushar. Prasanna sir, over to you. Sir, what are your views on the driving use cases for e-rupee as a platform?
I'll just extend, Prasanna, the question which was there from Shreyas side, which is कि यार मतलब if you remember जब UPI आया था in 2015 odd or so, at that point of time, one of the biggest driver of it was essentially banks who decided to open up and essentially kind of made it a product available to startups. How do you see this time essentially getting driven? How do you see banks playing a major role in that?
I think e-rupee is a new product, and certainly the way we have seen rise of UPI or rise of the other NPCI products, they have matured enough and being adopted by whole ecosystems gradually. There are exceptions, but I think UPI is a major success, and NPCI comes with that a hell lot of experience, right? Where Saurabh, Dilip sir, and certainly e-rupee, when it has launched, everybody was looking at whether it is something like a centralized bank digital currency and so on. But it is a completely leak-proof system, right? So that gives quite a lot quite a lot of liberty how it can be really utilized everywhere. I think some of the examples Tushar was talking about the CSR or some of those welfare use cases where a lot of corruption does happen and ultimately the beneficiary receives pie of the whole amount which was being disbursed. Or micro loans at a banking level, I think micro loans or one-time payments. E-Rupee certainly is around one-time payment, whether it is the beneficiary is there, not there, and certainly being a cashless and being on a feature phone with in the form of a QR code or a SMS, it can be utilized on many other channels. It can be shown onto the ATM to disburse salary for any of those worker if his owner is sending to all the salaries to all of his employees, so through a form of e-rupee, which could be a micro transactions. Micro lending can go on to the banking ecosystems where small loans for millennials can come onto the e-rupee. I think as we move on furthermore, we'll see quite a lot possibilities around e-rupee kind of ecosystem. The best part of e-rupee itself is a leak-proof, tamper-proof, cashless and contactless, which are the problems with the paper, right? Paper-based currency, where we see even if the paper where it is being kept, right? We don't know. With e-rupee, we know we can really track every currency of e-rupee, where it is lying, how it is being utilized, and these kind of audit trails will be available to the government. How it can be, and furthermore, we always compare. Or these days quite a lot, whether it is a CBDC. CBDC is much more, right? It is not only around retail kind of a payment. It has its own other like corporate payments or B2B kind of payments, country to country payments, and many other aspects where monetization of currency can be utilized. We get interest around the CBDC, right? So if some of the countries, the way they have implemented e-rupee, we cannot get interest. So as we move further on, banks will really have some kind of other aspects around wherein the fixed amount, right, which when we have to give it to any of those beneficiaries, salaries or micro payments, micro lending, so these kind of a use case will be utilized. Or if school fees, right, which is a fixed fees, we don't have to really have to add on while we are standing in front of the teller in the school fees, right? So that's how we can redeem these cards wherever it is being utilized. I'm not sure about the initial example of Madira, how it can be utilized, but for sure people will find out some jugaad, how it can be really cracked and utilized or reutilized again and again. But being an innovative company like NPCI brought in on the right time to bring a needed cashless and contactless kind of experience post-pandemic. So this is a most welcome. Banks will really experiment a lot. It has recently launched among some few banks. Bank like DCB would also be part of it sooner or later. But it's another wave I could see. The UPI has done magic, right, in last since 2016. We'll see e-rupee will also be riding on the similar kind of story for different set of segments and different set of business models, where UPI will be an additional power to the whole payment ecosystems. So that's what we look at. India is one of those countries which brings many innovations payment, but if you really see the financial inclusion at a ground level, how it can be reached. So e-rupee does use at a feature force, or it will be very intuitive for as an experience to be utilized by Bharatvasi, right? So I think it will be adopted furthermore, and eventually we look at how UPI should be helping the e-rupee so that both in combination can make more and more citizens, Bharatvasis, to be inclined towards financial inclusion. That's what I can see in initial thoughts, Vishant.
Bilkul. Thank you so much, sir. I think that really gave us insights on the micro level use cases that could be essentially drivers of this platform. Interestingly, when you spoke about the Madira example that Avishant sir had given earlier, something actually a bulb went off in my head. If you remember, during COVID period, American government had issued stimulus checks to people all over the country. What kind of a role can e-rupee like platform play in a country like India if the government chooses to do a similar stimulus check kind of a model? Because we did see a lot of essentially not right kind of usage of stimulus packages, like people buying iPhones out of stimulus checks and all of that. So do you think that could have a good impact, or what kind of impact can that have?
I think the question is to you, Prasanna.
Pardon, can you repeat? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So essentially, the question is around like when we speak about the American government essentially issuing stimulus checks to the citizens, right? In that kind of a situation, what role do you think e-rupee kind of a platform could play if Indian government could essentially be doing a similar stimulus check or a stimulus this thing to the citizens?
I think we need to find out the right use cases. I think the US use case may not be really aligned with the Indian use cases, right? Some of the use cases I think Abhishan can support. Say example in Punjab, where farmers are selling their grains and they get some certain amount against that grain, right? So it can be immediately given as a e-rupee there and there itself, instead of waiting for an reconciliation settlement kind of cycle in the back end, and then farmer receives the actual money. So I think this kind of stuff, how we can bring on innovation to really immediately issue the e-rupee will be another innovation to be looked at, how adoption of the e-rupee. Like in other communities, right? Within community, like peer-to-peer payment, like how can we really utilize e-rupee at, say example, at IPL, right? We know the fixed, I have been given so much of e-rupee, I can really utilize in the whole stadium for various other things against which I can get rewards or something like that. So I think government had DBT kind of a use cases where or insurance, right? Say example, there is a fixed amount for whatever I claim I put on a health insurance or a vehicle insurance. So that can be given in form of e-rupee, because it can be and more adoption on the acquiring side, how it can be really utilized, right? So that's, I think these at this moment there is a less adoption, but certainly more or less adoption will happen through this all these mobile apps, BharatPay and many other apps are right now supporting. I think it's very early to say that how that US example will be aligned in the Indian context. But I can see, looking at e-rupee, there are so many use cases in India. If we sit out and brainstorm how many use cases, right? We can really look at those use cases where financial inclusion has not reached, and people are really looking at how it can be used in a simpler format, right? So where cash is there, but apart from cash, how we can really adopt DBT we were talking about. There are other health scheme at a Grameen level, right? Earlier it was RSBY, right? People used to get money against for health insurance. I think where this fixed amount to be disbursed to the Indian citizens. So I think where you will have a traceability. In RSBY, we have seen so much of corruption that happened in the past when it was aligned, right? Ultimately, the citizen used to get only 10% or maybe 5% out of those 30,000 or whatever the amount, right? So I think this kind of a traceability it brings, although we keep on talking other technologies, but I think it's so simply very nicely implemented without much of taking of extra hardware servers or extra specification. So that's the beauty about e-rupee. I think we'll have to really see which are those use cases it should be adopted and cover a full landscape.
And to add to what Prasanna is saying, the beauty of this is that it is very acquiring light. You don't need
absolutely
infrastructure in
you don't have
side, and it is available on feature phones. So a case in point, for example, if you have ordered something for cash on delivery, typically you give your maid the money so that once the parcel comes at your place, the maid can pay. Instead of that, you can issue a voucher to your maid, which is there on her non-smartphone, which the delivery boy can actually scan and get the payments. So it's a very, very powerful tool, and like Prasanna said, I mean, there are many use cases that this can be put to with the right use without the fear of leakage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Vikram wants to say something.
So I wanted to just add to that. It is the first, in a way, we have seen how programmable payments work, right? So this is in a way, indirectly, when you think it is an indirectly programmable payment that you are having. And that opens up even more use cases. So for example, as we have seen, the first industry it will disrupt easily is CSR and donations and everything. That is clear. Apart from that, also when you look at e-commerce, when you look at identifying some of the school fee payment and all these things, you will see that it will change the way people think about it, right? And because it is starting with B2B2C, the acceptability automatically becomes much easier, because if you are getting something, you need to spend it. And then automatically the ecosystem gets created. So it is a nice move to start from let's say government, if somebody is giving something directly to you and there are no acceptor, you can't do much. But if government is giving something which is already there as an ecosystem, someone will accept that, and that is how it will start.
Got it. Thank you so much, Vikram. Sagarika, over to you for the next round of questions.
So I had a set of questions, but I think I just came across a very interesting question from one of the audiences, and it also made me think that seeing the fintech industry, what I have noticed is that historically entities have been leveraging the data part after the fintechs have evolved a lot. We have evolved through the data part, be it fintech entities or non-fintech. So from an e-rupee perspective, do you see entities using the spending data or consumer behavior data as as a study based on what they're spending, and can it be basically used as another data set for the entities that are involved with the e-rupee? So I think I'd like the reviews of Saurabh sir and Vikram sir on this, if that's possible.
Okay, so Saurabh, if you want to start first, otherwise.
Vikram, after you, please go ahead.
Okay, so my view is very simple. Look, I have been an ex-banker also. So by the way, when you look at this is on top of the current existing pipelines, right? So let's say you have your saving account, it is coming out of that, or current account, it is coming out of that. So in fact, this becomes definitely one source of analytics. Definitely, there is no two way about it. But it also provides you one different measure which otherwise you don't get from the traditional mechanism, is whether it is actually being utilized or not, right? So that normally you can't identify. Here you can see the micro payment or whatever it is. End of the day, the management layer, which I spoke about as Generation 1 startups or issuers can now create this another support layer or service layer, which will allow them to identify from the acquisition perspective also. Because now merchant, when you are acquiring merchant or whether you are providing this service to a corporate, suddenly you are looking at certain use cases based on which you can cross-sell certain things more, which otherwise is not possible. Here you are able to identify your main customer who is a corporate and their customer side. That is impossible today. Okay, that is another layer which you are unlocking. Over to you, Saurabh.
I think data is one critical thing, and who else, Vikram, while we are studying this AI and everything, in NPCI from you. So relevant question, Sagarika. Right now, what I can see, I think sometime we create platform and then again I'm coming back to the stuff. What problem we are solving, right? And when we solve any problem, there are various of data which are available in a very different form. So right now it is not available in the right usable form, but yes, there is a need, yes, there is a necessity, and there is a dearth of solutions. Answer is yes. So I think those kind of data, when we put together, then it can make some sensible story to share. But giving the in some time when we'll see more and more redemption and more data coming in, that will make more sense of it. That much I can say right now. But right now, if you want to connect those dots in the data side, there is a data, sub-data, and the metadata. Lot of things has to work together in my view.
Understood. That makes sense, I think. Thank you. I think two more questions that can be open to all, whoever wants to answer. One is, a lot of people, especially after government announced that they're taking the first few steps for CBDC involvement, have been confusing this for CBDC. So just wanted to know about, is this kind of, you can say, a torchbearer for CBDC, or the first move that India is taking towards CBDC, if any of you want to take it?
Yes, Sagarika, I think I had mentioned also that this is the first move towards CBDC is what I feel. I believe that this can be a central bank currency which can be utilized for many use cases.
I think I have some views around CBDC and how globally various other countries are doing. Say, example, we heard about Cambodia, which has implemented, which is aligned with their fast ecosystem, right? The way UPI we have in India. So, but what they have done, they have used it only locally at a country level. So, it cannot be used outside of the country, or it cannot be traded. Like other CBDCs are used for a retail purpose. Some countries have implemented country-to-country specific. Canada, Singapore, you speak about. And there are many other co-countries they have implemented, which is B2B or corporate kind of CBDC. CBDC has like there are 4 steps when we implement CBDCs. First step is around your monetary policies. What all monetary policies will have a country level changes, right? For example, Bahamas, they allowed CBDCs for a fixed deposit, and all of a sudden they found that for that the digital currency for which the CBDC being utilized, they the whole interest rate they will have to pay for that digital currency, where we don't pay interest for a paper currency which is in your pocket or which is in your treasury, right? So that was a equation mismatch Bahamas found, and they have put some kind of a controls, and there are many other learning from the other countries also. So I think studying the monetary policies at India like a country, right, which is very, very important. So e-rupee could be an example of a contactless, cashless, but it may not be directly a CBDC. CBDC is a ultimate replacement for your cash, as well as there are many other aspects around this. So second layer, which is around whether it is gonna be a centralized or decentralized architecture for implementation, right? Today, e-rupee is a completely centralized architecture. It is not decentralized the way it is. It will be available everywhere on that ecosystem. We'll come to know who is holding how much e-rupees and so on, the way cryptocurrencies are being utilized, right? Third thing is around how are we accessing it? Account-based access or a token-based access. Here, e-rupee can be we can issue it for anybody, right? We may not know for whom it is being really actually utilized. We know that where it is utilized, right? On which acquiring point it is utilized and for what purpose and so on. So CBDC is more than that. It could be account-based or a token-based. And finally, it is a use case, whether it is a retail or a corporate, like cross-border payment or a retail peer-to-peer payment. So those are on a high level 4 areas to build CBDC for any country, the way China have done or the way 80 plus central banks are doing it. And India's CBDC has an advantage of being what we have Aadhaar, which is a digital identity ecosystem, or UPI, or there are other ecosystems coming into picture where more and more digitalization or digital payment will happen. CBDC will ride on all these railroads and will be one of those better implementation. E-rupee certainly will be one more accelerating or a helping point for a CBDC, but certainly it is not a CBDC that way, right? When you look at the whole gamut of what is meant by monetary policy, all of these 4 steps. But I think it is certainly has given some momentum to do. I think RBI is working separately on a CBDC area since last year and so on, and they are keep on announcing also the way they have trained many of the RBI officials on blockchain or CBDCs and so on recently. So I think we will have a better journey on CBDC the way we have seen UPI being one of those greater ecosystem other countries look at, or Aadhaar. Similarly, India's CBDCs will be very, very awesome ecosystem. People will ask how you are really done it. So I think we might be late in adoption of a CBDC. While other countries are trying, implementing, doing pilots, POCs, and there are quite a lot learning from other countries also will borrow, right? So eventually it is based upon a blockchain. Why? Because we need a transparency out there. Although it can be non-blockchain based CBDC also, but ultimately the way I think Sweden or some of the countries have implemented non-blockchain based, but ultimately now they are looking at how we can bring decentralization to that, right? So I think that's a need of a future where we need more and more trust for all types of payment, issuance side or acquiring side or in between transparency where it is being utilized. So I think we can talk a lot along with Vikram and all of our friends CBDC for full day, right? But in a nutshell, it's like a teaser, like this is how it could be, but it has many more things to worked upon, right? It's like at a country level how we can implement. It can go to the certain small use cases, right, and slowly evolve for a whole country eventually. Like hardly we had seen a paper currency in way back in 2000 years ago, right? So but now we have a paper currency. There could be after 20-30 years we'll have a different set of certainly different form factors of your currency. So I think CBDC will, and it will take a thought through discipline, very studied approach to really implement. Otherwise, we will fail. But certainly at India level, the way we have experts and tech companies, we have such an experience of NPCI and many other payment tech companies, right? We'll have a very good CBDC implementation.
Just to quickly add to what Prasanna said, very small one-liner, that when you look at, for non-technical people, when you look at from e-rupee perspective, it is still digital rupee. Digital rupee is what we have today, right? It's still digital rupee. CBDC is in a way crypto rupee, right? Because end of the day, you want to make sure that it is through smart contract, it is interoperable, it is something which you can work with decentralized ecosystem. So while right now we are talking about digital rupee, once we go for crypto rupee, that becomes CBDC. There are advantages rather than going into technicality. Just to tell you that this is a programmable digital rupee that we are talking about for e-rupee, and this is in a way people say precursor to CBDC. CBDC is any which way is getting developed separately with separate set of people thinking about it, how to make it more not decentralized, but at the same point in time, what are the advantages that you can get? Right? So maybe you are getting a private permission network to begin with. How Project Ubin started in Singapore, you started with private permission, then you started with public permission as a layer on top of it. And then you are looking at cross-border payment and so on and so forth. And I'm sure RBI is also going to go for that kind of a route.
Thank you. Makes sense, everything. So one last question for the day, basically. What we have observed in the payment ecosystem of India is that every time people feel, yaar, iske aage kuch nahi ho payega, some blockbuster like e-rupee comes up and blows our mind. So where do you see the payment ecosystem? What are the new frontiers of the Indian payment ecosystem per se? Tushar sir, let's start with you. You're on mute.
Yeah. So see, basically, this I feel this is going to be a blockbuster. Like when UPI came in, it started small, but it has become very, very big, and I see almost every business opting to UPI. And it's largely because, see, normally what used to happen is you have to remember something if you have to make a payment with earlier days. Then you have to take out the card of your wallet and enter your card number and go through that, all of that. Whereas in UPI, it is something which you remember. That's the easiest that comes to you. You put it over there. You get an OTP. You validate it, and you make a payment. So obviously, I see this is going to really revolutionize like UPI did, and this holds really a lot of potential. And we as in the payment industry, especially on the acquiring side, are very excited to have this. More so because it is easy on infrastructure. It is easy. It's light acquiring. And there is no significant investment that I have to do as an acquirer to enable this on the platforms. Obviously, it also depends on the ecosystem that is getting developed, how easy or how difficult it is to get the e-rupee voucher generated. If it is as easy as creating a UPI handle, obviously this is going to be a blockbuster.
Thanks. Prasanna sir, over to you.
I think India could be the one of those countries who has a multiple channels, right? Look at how many channels we have to do financial transactions. So many railroads, NEFT, IMPS, RTGS within the same country, right? And we have evolved with these aspects, and we have seen every payment instrument we got in, and it is being utilized by fellow Indians. We need to see when you look at the adoption of a payment or adoption of financial inclusion, right? I have few examples. I think like Abhishan, I keep on roaming and seeing how people are really utilized. So within a sitting in a Mumbai city also, we will see people accepting paper currency within Crawford Market, or you talk about some of the during Diwali sites when you buy or sell the diya. So I think we need to see how behavioral aspects should be changed at at a fellow Indian level. So apart from bringing various innovations on the payment side or on feature phone side, how it can be nurtured to utilize more and more digital methods of the payment, which are good for a country like India to do away with the overheads of the cash or overheads of the operational aspect. I think e-rupee is one of those ecosystem which will give a more habit for people to with the micro payments or micro lending kind of ecosystem use cases. There are quite a lot of use cases I can see at the employee level to give some benefits or the welfare we were talking about. It will bring a lot of transparency to the way we are operating at the cash level. UPI is a landscape changing exercise which we had seen. Like I think I am still looking at how another ecosystem or something which is supported by e-rupee, UPI, Aadhaar, and it could be pure play digital rupee, may not be CBDC, but could be a digital rupee, which is easily understood by the Bharatvasi who is sitting somewhere, right? May not have to get into that mobile phone and really trying to understand how it will be utilized, how it will be free flowing. I think when 5G will come into picture, more and more autonomous things will come into picture. We will see a lot of invisible interfaces for people to operate upon, right? So I think I am waiting for 5G and relevant use cases where your machines will be your customers, right? They themselves will do the financial transactions, your houses, your smart locks, your refrigerator. They will perform the way they will be instructed upon at the start of a month or on regular intervals. So I think while we have a journey on Bharat side, there is a lot much happening on a digital side where people does understand, and more how do we bring on Bharatvasi towards digital. That could be the one way, which may not be the actual responsibility of the payment instruments, but maybe government or maybe regulatory governance and so on. How do we bridge that gap and bring more people on to the financial inclusion side? That will give a more incentives to the payment ecosystem in India.
Yeah, and Prasanna, to add to what you're saying, not only getting the Bharatvasi to transact digitally, but it is also, I feel, going to open a lot of blue ocean areas. Which till now were untouched by digital transactions for the very nature of the business over there.
Thank you. I think machines will be customer made so much sense when you hear it out. Yeah, please go ahead, Abhishek.
Yes, I was saying that on top of what they mentioned. So when you look at it, right? So for any problem statement, when you look at systematically, you will think about for which segment, target segment you are creating that. What are the product relevant to that target segment? That is another thing. So let's say e-rupee is targeting certain segment. And at the end, you have what are the channels available to distribute this product or make it available to the final target segment. Now, when you think about this, innovation in future will be happening throughout this entire ecosystem in different segment. Different products will be created for them. So just to give you an example, right? So when you see e-rupee for current example, universal basic income was suggestion in economic survey of 16-17. Okay. Earlier, before that, self-employed women's association of SEWA, they had done this in Madhya Pradesh as a pilot, and there was several shortcomings. And major shortcoming was that the money that was remitted was not utilized for the intended purpose, right? Suddenly you are using e-rupee, you are opening up UBI, because UBI as a use case suddenly is now possible, and you are able to do it much better way and in a controlled manner. So that UBI suddenly becomes a possibility. That is one thing. So that is one use case, but suddenly with UBI, you will need to add certain layer on top of it, right? To make it much more usable along with e-rupee. That is another layer of complexity that you are building. Another thing which you are building for Gen Z, as we saw in that pre-club example, right? Gen Z. So you have a product which is their social currency. If, let's say, a person like Shreyas has 1 million Instagram follower, then he can utilize that social currency for multiple things, which is happening. Today on YouTube, when you go, you have one button called Thank. When you click on that Thanks button, you can provide, let's say, micro payment of 5 rupee or 50 rupee. And that is how you can say thank. Now that is something which will change, so that more and more programmable use cases you will see in future. Right? So the idea will be that target segment. Target segment is one, then you are creating product for that segment, and ecosystem will evolve like this. NPCI will give you pipelines to run, and ecosystem startups like iCommerce and others will think about what to do with that, and that is how you are building layer. It is like an onion, and on top of it, you are just creating more and more layers.
Perfect, thank you. I think Shreyas, we should add social currency as one of the podcasts that we will look at. We both of us had a very interesting discussion about that as well once upon a time. Thank you, Vikram sir. Abhishant sir, over to you on what do you think are the new frontiers for payment ecosystem. And
I think we the only thing is I think we have stretched quite a bit for our audience, so I don't have any further comment to make. If there is any other comment which can be possibly submitted upon, else I will essentially, at least at my end, summarize from the point of view that maybe Europe from a value chain point of view is something which is going to give a rebirth to gift as a value proposition. Gift as a value proposition frankly lost its charm. When I was working with Visa, we tried hard to essentially find out use cases from a gift value proposition point of view, and frankly could not find much to do. This as a value proposition can actually revisit gift, change gift like anything, and मतलब अगर मैं गिफ्ट की स्थिति को शायद आई ट्राई टू काइंड ऑफ समराइज इट विद अ पोएम बाय दिनकर. उन्होंने लिखा था कृष्ण की चेतावनी में, वर्षों तक वन में घूम घूम वाघा बिघ्नों को चूम चूम, सहधूप धाम पानी पत्थर पांडव आए कुछ और निकर, सौभाग्य ना हर दिन सोता है आओ देखें क्या होता है. तो जो सौभाग्य सो रहा था गिफ्ट कार्ड का, वो शायद उस गिफ्ट कार्ड का सौभाग्य जाग रहा है, और वो जो बेचारा गली गली घूम रहा था और उसका कोई नाम लेवा नहीं था, शायद आई बिलीव दैट what Prasanna said, leak proof, tamper proof, purpose driven, impact led solution, I think that's what possibly we'll achieve with Europe, and that's how I would summarize and put my thoughts.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that's all for the day.